You forgot the first rule of remakes, Jill. Don't fuck with the original.
Hey everyone, The Muppets Most Wanted is coming to theaters this Friday, and you know what that means?
Many cameos in this podcast.
That would be great. Actually, I would love if it could pull that off. Unfortunately, I didn't call anyone, so sorry. This is another episode of Don't F with the Original.
With Nicholas, I'm the big game correspondent for Idiomatic.
And I'm Dimitri, editor-in-chief of Idiomatic.com and movie critic. Now you know the drill, people. When there's a new movie coming out that's part of a big franchise, we take the movie that started it all and give it a look to see what we can expect from the new movie.
Yeah.
And in this case, that means 1979's The Muppet Movie.
Indeed.
Directed by James Frawley, and the entire Jim Henson production company really being actively involved in it, I imagine.
Indeed, yeah, of course.
Alright, so The Muppets Movie is actually an origin story.
Yeah.
Which surprised me, because believe it or not, I had completely forgotten this movie. I think I might have seen it on TV when I was a kid, and then it melded with Muppets in New York and all of them.
Something like that, yeah.
You know? But, so rewatching it, I discovered, this is an origin story on how the Muppets came together and came to have the Muppets show.
Yeah.
Or as Kermit says, approximately.
Roughly, yeah.
So it's really much of a road movie where Kermit goes from the swamp to California in the longest way possible, and then meets each of the Muppets one by one. And it's a sort of series of sketches with lots of cameos, as you pointed out.
Yeah.
And there you have it. He's being hunted down by a guy who wants to use Kermit to be the spokesperson of his Frog's Legs fast food company.
That sounds delicious, actually, honestly. But still, it's kind of weird because Kermit's there, but still those frog legs look delicious.
And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, this is not a plot-centric movie. This is a joke-centric movie.
Yeah. It's kind of meta as well, because at the beginning you see them, we're going to go watch the Muppet movie, and they're sitting, although it's still the movie, and then the Muppet movie starts, so it's a movie within the movie, and in that movie they do the beginning of the Muppet movie, so it's like 3 layers of movie within the movie. It's like, where's an Inception at this point?
Well, actually 4. We are at Inception, because there's 4, because at one point, the band reads the script to the movie that is their life, not the movie that they're making within the movie of the movie.
Yeah. So, yeah, wow. Yeah, this is like equal to Inception at this point. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean... But yeah, it was kind of, a little meta there. It was amusing, you know. There's one point I didn't quite like. It kind of slowed down there in the middle when they meet Miss Piggy. And, the whole romance thing, I thought there was a lot more emphasis put on that than, the rest of the characters, even though, on the show she has a crush on him. And, he's kind of about it. But yeah, I don't think they needed like 40 minutes to explain that, really.
Well, it wasn't 40 minutes, in fairness.
It felt pretty long, though.
It's not that long. It's one song, essentially what it comes down to. Because, he meets her, and at that point, I don't consider that being focused on the subplot of their love affair, because they're going after Gonzo, who's on the balloons and everything. So other stuff's going on at the same time. Right. Then they go at a restaurant, and then it's all about that. They have that song. And then she gets kidnapped, and then it becomes back to the plot with the Frog Legs guy.
I still consider that kidnap plot kind of part of their story, though, because maybe that's why I thought it was a little long, because also it was her occasion to show that she could, fight, apparently. In the Muppet Show, she used to, hit people, and, that was a funny gag. I did not need to see her go Matrix style on a bunch of different guys.
Well, this was before the Matrix, but yeah.
I know, but I'm just saying, It was, at one point I was like, okay, end this scene, please, but...
Well, it's 2 scenes. So you got the song, and you got the rescue plot, so it's 2 skits out of, something like 18 skits, so, that's definitely not 40 minutes out of an hour and a half movie.
But still.
But, so it's maybe twice as long as each given character has.
Yeah.
But for me, because I felt the same way, I felt like, oh, God, enough with this shit. I felt the same way you did, but I'm just saying objectively it's not that long. Yeah. The problem is that the song that Miss Piggy sings, it's awful.
Yes.
It's the worst song in the movie. It feels like it lasts forever. Especially since all the other songs are really quite good, in fact.
And they're fun, and they're, quirky as well, and hers is just like, oh, you're not saying anything here. Let's move on.
That's it. So that's the thing. The first skit is not particularly good. It has Steve Martin as a randomly annoyed waiter, which was mildly funny.
Yeah.
Didn't care for the shorts, but
Yeah.
because I feel like his joke would have been funnier with less quirk. Like, and so the shorts was like, okay, well now you're assaulting me with craziness.
Yeah.
But then it breaks into the song that is neither funny nor just good or well sung, because obviously Frank Oz, who's doing Miss Piggy's voice, can't quite keep a pitch when he's doing that high pitched voice.
Yeah, that's probably true.
So yeah, it's like the worst scene in the movie, and I think that's why, for me at least, that's why it felt long, because it was just bad.
Yeah.
But having said that, it's a low point in an overall very charming movie.
Yeah.
I like the beginning of the movie more than the later skits, mostly because I find the heart of the movie really works when it's just Kermit and Fozzie Bear.
Okay.
They have such great dynamic together because
Yeah.
they already have like the idiot and his long suffering friend, essentially. Like instantly they have sort of that dynamic. And, they meet the band, so it's not like there is just them two, but you have all the building blocks for good comedy with just these two.
Yeah.
And then when they start adding Gonzo and then Miss Piggy and all of that, what happens is that it gets a bit crowded, and so like, I'm not getting in as much of each of the characters because of that.
I didn't mind that as much as well, because it was kind of like the chaos that you remember from the Muppet Show, where it was like always a bunch of them together, and it was like a show that was like so poorly run, like so many things just happened, and the band got destroyed and stuff like that. Just random stuff that happened in your show. So you kind of felt that chaos that I remember from the show. That really like when they're trying to get to the audition, and the woman doesn't want to let them pass, and she has allergies, and they're all like shooting their mouth about allergies, and they're all saying different random stuff. And I was like, yeah, okay, I remember that from them not being able to focus on one thing they're saying. So I remember that from the show, and I really enjoyed those bits.
No, and it's like, look, you couldn't have made a Muppets movie without featuring at least a core cast of the Muppets. Like, if it had been a Fozzie Bear Kermit movie, you better damn well call it Fozzie Bear and Kermit, not the Muppets.
I know.
It's not so much a qualm as an observation that, oh wow, it started getting crowded. But you're right. That's what the Muppets are about. Yeah.
No, I understand. You really felt the movie turning from them, almost, I can't say a buddy cop, but just a buddy road trip comedy to like, you could see it move a little bit, and then again split in the middle by the Miss Piggy thing, Because he meets Ralph during the whole Miss Piggy thing, he talks to him, and he just ends up in the car, no explanation. Hey, he's there now, and there's more and more people, and you're like, oh my god, what's happening here? You can really see the splitting between, very few people, and all of a sudden, like, what are all these guys doing here? It's crazy.
No, it's really charming. I have to say, I laughed a lot throughout all of it, and when I wasn't laughing, which happened a lot, to be honest, I was always smiling.
Yeah.
And there's some jokes that are so dumb, but that made me laugh every time. They have a recurring joke about, like, I'm lost. It's like, well, have you tried Hare Krishna? And they keep coming back to that effing joke, and it's not that funny, but I don't know what it is about Jim Henson doing Kermit and all the other puppeteers. They pull that stupid joke off. It made me laugh.
I think it's an assault of how many, very, very bad jokes, but if you throw enough of them, you'll end up laughing. The one that really got me laughing and started is like, turn left at the fork in the road, and there's a giant fork, and not only is there the fork there, but they actually acknowledge it. Oh, look at that. It was, look at that. Really sold it for me. It's like, oh yeah. So yeah, eventually you just end up smiling because one joke like that you just see, like, you get a clip on YouTube and you just see that clip of that single joke, you'd be like, oh, that was stupid. But just them all put together, eventually you're like, you can't help but, this is really funny.
I guess you're right. I watched this movie with my girlfriend, and she actually had the reaction of like, "Oh, that one made you laugh?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it did. I don't know why." And the one question was the second time they did the joke where Kermit going like, "It's a myth." A myth? No, myth. And then Miss Myth comes out going, "Yes."
Yeah.
And the second time, because she comes out of freaking nowhere the second time, I laughed. I can't explain why.
You just don't expect it. Okay, they did this joke the first time. It's good. It's done. It's like, no, she's there again.
No, it's funny how attached I am to these puppets. I never realized. I mean, as a kid, I did watch the Muppet Show religiously.
Yeah.
But watching it again, I had the same reaction as when I watched the recent The Muppets, to which Muppets Most Wanted is officially a sequel.
Okay.
It's just this like, oh my god, I missed them so much. It's amazing how much I love Kermit and the dog. I love the dog, Ralph.
Yeah.
He never does anything, and yet I love that dog.
Yeah. He has terrible songs. That's pretty much all he has, you know.
But it's seeing them in this movie. What I like about it is that they are given space to breathe, and it is most definitely them. It doesn't feel like them processed through the Hollywood machine, and if anything, it feels like the Hollywood machine processed through the Jim Henson Company.
Yeah, it seems that way. Oh yeah, and, you know, you also notice in the movie, big stars from 1979 that just show up for cameos, like 2 or 3 lines, and then that's it. You know, they have Richard Pryor, basically, as a balloon salesman. I think he has 2 lines, and he sells a bunch of balloons to Gonzo, and that's it.
Neither of which is a joke. That's the thing that really shocked me. It's like, okay, the Muppets are known for their cameos. The Muppets movies in general are known for just like assaulting you with cameos.
Yeah.
But the Richard Pryor one caught me by surprise because he's just there. He's not even doing a bit.
I know. Not funny. The thing is just, no, don't just buy one balloon, buy all of them. And it was like, okay, that's it. Even Bob Hope had like one joke, you know, with, you know, honey and ice cream. He was like, okay, you know, he did his shtick and he went along, but like Richard Pryor, nothing.
It's weird. Like, arguably one of the funniest men ever to grace the stage as a stand-up. And it's like, no jokes. And I guess that was the joke?
I guess, yeah. I also love Orson Welles looking terrifying. And then he's like, yeah, he's good at that.
I have to say, though, my favorite cameo has to be Big Bird trying to go to New York because he wants to be on public television.
Yeah.
It's because, you know, Kermit goes on the road to become a star in Hollywood. And it's like, they meet Big Bird and goes like, yeah, I'm following my dream too. I want to be on public television forever.
Yeah. Didn't he say, like, good luck with that as well? So just move along.
I don't know. I always assumed that the Sesame Street characters and the Muppets show were taking place in the same universe.
Sort of, yeah.
Because Kermit appears in both, for example.
You're right.
I always assumed, so.
Makes sense. Well, with his knowledge of Big Bird, that's why he was invited to do public, you know, television. You know, not that they met each other like that. It was easy to get contact.
There you go. It's so hard to review this movie, I'll be honest, just because all I can say is it's the Jim Henson Company being the Jim Henson Company. It's really charming. It's kind of dumb, but not in a, like, oh, you could have tried harder dumb. No, it's like, wow, you tried really hard to be dumb and you succeeded. Like,
I know. Also, the silliness of the overarching plot that this one guy wants Kermit to be the spokesperson for, you know, a Frog's Leg company is like, I would not eat, you know, frog leg. If a frog told me to eat them, it'd be kind of like, well, will I eventually have to eat the mascot or something? That would seem weird to me. It'd be like a cow telling me to eat burgers, you know. It's just a little odd. It's just saying.
Then again, I mean, like, who are the mascots of the M&Ms? 2 M&Ms.
That's a good point. It's not, okay, this is a nitpick itself. So it just feels the general big silliness of, you know, is your public really want to start eating frog legs if they see that little dancing frog over there, so, you know, having that much sound is like, I don't want to eat it. Naive Kermit also thinking that, you know, the frog legs, that, you know, they take the legs and then they let the frogs go. It's like, yeah, I'm sure that's how it happened.
Yes, that was actually really cute. That's really cute. Getting back to this song, you know, I one of the things is that I was surprised how they're beautiful songs.
Yeah, they are.
Especially, like, I really love the main song, which is Why Are There So Many Songs About Rainbows, which Kermit the Frog sings.
Yeah.
I mean, the lyrics are really cute and charming, but the melody also is really touching. Like, it's a really, really nice song. It was nominated for an Oscar, in fact. Didn't win. Robbed!
I know. Actually, I'm really curious to know what won, you know.
I have no idea.
Something silly, but, you know, whatever.
That song got Dark Knighted. Whatever.
Yeah.
No, but it's just such a lovely song. I would be curious to see as well what won in 1979 for Best Song, because I feel that one would have been hard to beat.
Yeah. It's so appropriate to the movie as well. You know, maybe if you listened to it outside, you know, you probably wouldn't win a Grammy because, you know, out of context, it's kind of weird, but, you know.
Then again, the album the soundtrack album did win a Grammy for Best Children Album.
Yeah, but the album puts everything in context, you know.
Okay.
Whereas a Grammy, just for
Just for the song.
just for a song or just for random listening, it's like, this is odd. Why is he singing about this? Whereas in the context of the movie, I think it fits. So I would see it much better for the Oscar than for a Grammy, for example.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Because the movie starts with that song, and you just see a swamp and Kermit singing it. I thought it was lovely.
Yeah.
And then Dom DeLuise comes in.
And he's lost in a swamp for some reason.
Has he tried Hare Krishna?
I don't know.
And then the second song that comes in, Moving Along, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
Also surprisingly good. Because everybody knows why there's so many songs about rainbows, because it's such a classic song. And I remembered that this is going to be a good song, so when I heard it, I was like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Then when they got to Moving Along with Fozzie Bear and Kermit, I was like, wow, this is good as well. I was like, how many good songs are in this thing?
Yeah. And it kind of, you hit a dip when you hit Mixed Piggy,
Yeah.
kind of like on the down there, but then they pick it back up again afterwards, so it's all good.
Yeah.
One thing I was a little disappointed at, I'm going to say, the movie starts with the two curmudgeon guys going through security. It's a private screening. It has to be private because the movie's going to be terrible or something like that. It's them being, super negative about the show and going there nonetheless, which I just love. They're kind of like internet reviewers going to see Twilight and then complaining about it. But still, they're doing it in a funny way.
Yes.
And that was, not enough of them in the movie. That's all I'm saying.
They're your favorite characters, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
You're such a hater, but
it would have been so funny if Kermit had picked them up at the side of the road. We're going to Hollywood. And I was like, yeah, sure, we'll be your audience. And he picks up the two guys that keep complaining about the show, and he's the reason they're there. That would have been just hilarious to me. But yeah, that didn't happen.
No.
Opportunity missed for an awesome joke.
I'm going to give my final opinion right away, and we can maybe talk about something else afterwards. But it's just, go see it. If you have kids, see it with them. It's charming. Yeah. It's sweet. It's so funny. And yes, the rhythm is a bit slower than what we're used to today.
Yeah.
But
that's fine. It'll calm your kids down. They won't be hyper,
Yeah, exactly. And that's a quality. Honestly, it's a slow, relaxed sort of rhythm to it. And that's not a bad thing. Why are we in such a hurry for everything?
Exactly. And it also, it ages very well. I mean, there's nothing you can say, this is, besides maybe how they're dressed, in the city and stuff like that. But you can't look at it and say, this is old stuff. This is ridiculous. Okay, they're grabbing old cars, but they were old even for the time the movie was made. So that's the whole point,
Yeah, Studebaker.
Studebakers, they're driving a car from the 50s. The movie is made in 79. So, it hasn't aged at all. You can enjoy it now. If you know the characters, you will love the movie.
Yeah, no, I agree. Oh, you remind me of one thing that bugged me.
Okay.
At one point, they decided to paint the Studebaker into multicolors.
Oh, that was painful.
And then it melds into a joke where they meld into essentially a billboard.
Yeah.
And then the next scene, the Studebaker is normal again, and that actually bugged me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was like, hey, wait, no, pie in the face does not negate continuity. I want the Studebaker to be weird again.
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, because they had to use two Studebakers for filming. I read,
Mm-hmm.
One is completely ruined because it's rainbow colored now, so it's worth nothing at all. If you love cars, you're like, oh, this is painful. Why are you doing this? But yeah, you're right. I didn't even notice. I didn't catch it. But I was just, so I guess I was just really in the movie that it's like, I didn't catch that error.
I'm not even sure it's an error. It might have been just be well, the joke's over, and we're not going to continue the joke.
I guess now they're expecting a rainbow car, so let's remove the paint or something. Let's wash it off or something.
But anyway, so both two glowing reviews of this.
Indeed.
Recommendations. We got quite a bit of time in front of us, so I thought maybe we'd talk about the one that came before, because Muppets Most Wanted is a direct sequel to just the Muppets that came out with Amy Adams and Marshall from How I Met Your Mother.
He has a name.
Yeah, what's his name?
Jason Segel, I think.
Yeah, that's right. That's what it is. And the thing is, he's spearheaded this project. He was its champion. He He was like, he wrote the thing, he helped choose the directors, he produced, and he presented it to Hollywood and fought tooth and nail to get it done.
Nice, which I guess is hard because I mean, before that, who remembered the Muppets? Honestly, really, before that, their last it was quite a while since.
Yeah, well, it was like in the mid to late '90s, and it was like a flop.
Yeah,
You know.
I think he just wanted to compete with Neil Patrick Harris and the Smurfs. It's
Yeah.
like, I'll do something better.
I mean, in fairness, I mean, Disney did buy the Muppets, and they had been using it on their Disney Channel. There was a short-lived version of the Muppets show where instead of being in a amphi theater,
Yeah.
they were on a TV studio, and their guests were all Disney Channel stars. So it was a way
Okay.
to promote their Disney Channel stars. But it was still the Muppets being the Muppets, though. Like, it still worked. Like, even in that context,
Yeah.
the Muppets were still the Muppets. It's something amazing that Jim Henson and company created, that they can have these characters still work no matter what the context.
Yeah.
But yeah, like apart from that, that's pretty much all that was left of the Muppets until Siegel just pushed it, and the Muppets was a huge hit, and that's why I'm surprised not to see him in the sequel. But he said in an interview, like when they asked him like how come he's not back, he said, I was like, no, I did what I wanted. I wanted to bring the Muppets back into public consciousness, and then now that I've done that, other creators can do stuff with them. I'm cool.
Nice. And you can be surprised watching this movie and, like, oh, this is a fun story. It's, not be involved with everything. You can actually enjoy the final product.
Yeah. Exactly. And I gotta say, the Muppets, having now watched the Muppet movie again, it's amazing how many nods to that movie and to small continuity bits there are in there that I never realized was a sort of an inside joke. Because a joke in the Muppets is that, they gather the forces again, because the Muppets have sort of retired and split off, and then they gather them again.
Okay.
And they have that same joke where the dog is just suddenly in the car, and they don't explain why.
Nice, that's clever.
And then, halfway into the Muppets, at one point, it's like, the dog goes like, hey, how come we didn't show my story? I was just in the car. I was like, oh, fine. It's like, because it was a great story, too. And then they flash back to his story.
Yeah.
And he's, sitting in a hammock and goes like, hey, we're putting the Muppets back together. Okay. That was it.
It's a pretty good story. It's the same. Very nice. Yeah.
Stuff about, Gonzo, when he retired, he became, a master plumber, big super chain of toilets and everything. It's again, a nice little nod to his origins in the Muppet movie.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was like, oh my god, Siegel really studied his stuff to make it all, fit.
Maybe he didn't even need to study it. Maybe he was just a fan and he knew these things and he's like, it'll be funny if, and and real people who are fans of the franchise, the adults that have followed, that they're bringing their kids along, they'll get these jokes and they'll laugh at those, even though they might probably go over the heads of the kids, Slightly off topic. I'm sure you probably saw the Smurfs as well.
Yeah.
When it came out. How did the two compare, basically? I think the Smurfs, it's kind of weird because they're doing a fish out of water thing, so that's why I wasn't really interested. I'm really not interested now in seeing that movie at all, because I hate fish out of water stuff, whereas the Muppet, they've always lived in this universe with humans, so that makes sense. But what do you think, comparing the two?
Comparing, that's a very interesting question. What I will say is this: the Muppets, Jason Segel's interpretation of them is true to the original. Okay. It really is, this is a guy who loved that stuff, breathed it, but more than that, because you can love this stuff and not understand it. We see fans doing that all the time. Have you read fan fiction? But in the case of Jason Segel, he gets it. He gets what the Muppets are all about. In the case of the Smurfs, this is really a movie that F's with the original on every level, because the Smurfs are supposed to take place in medieval times.
Yeah.
They do interact with humans, but as these weird leprechaun-like creatures
that's true.
And
I mean, to be fair, they interact with cartoon humans, whereas in the movie they're cartoon CGI things, and they interact with real humans. I mean, that's the whole fish out of water thing I'm thinking of, really. But yeah. Also, they're in modern Earth now, which is really weird, I think there's ever a comic I read of the Smurfs that was like, hey, now they're in modern Earth, with buildings and stuff like that. That would have been weird.
No, that's it. That's not what they're about. Yeah. And they're not also, they took 5 Smurfs, and they're all dressed slightly different, so you can all tell them apart.
What's the point, then?
And exactly, it's the Smurfs are supposed to be a mass. They're not about... Here's the thing. Here's why the Smurfs was never going to work as a Hollywood movie. the Smurfs are about collectiveness. The Smurfs are about how we are as people, as a mass. How we're, at the heart of it, really stupid creatures as a mass.
Okay.
That is not something American filmmaking celebrates. It's all about individuality, celebrating the individual.
Yeah.
So that they were when they were going to take the Smurfs, they were always going to find a way to make it that, every Smurf is a special snowflake and you too can shine, clumsy Smurf. They were always going to do that, which is anti-Smurf.
Yeah.
But, in its very nature.
Whereas the Muppet, they're all special. That's the whole thing. You have your favorite ones, you have your ones. You can see. Oh, okay. Kermit, you know who he is. Miss Piggy, you know who she is. That seems goes a lot better. With what Hollywood wants.
Exactly. They're a better fit, and because they were created in Hollywood.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So yeah. If you ask me to compare the two, I think the main difference is that one F's with the original and one doesn't.
All right, that's good.
Yeah, I brought it back to the nature of the show.
I know.
Check it
very,
out.
very good. Very good.
How do you feel about Most Wanted? We've both seen a trailer together.
It looks interesting. I don't know. I'm not honestly a fan of these, switch, character thing.
The doppelganger
plot. Thing, yeah, where there's one takes the place of the other and he tries to act like them. I'm not a big fan of that, but I can try and look past that and see where the movie, because again they promised cameos galore, which they showed a few of them. So I'm willing to give it a shot if the craziness still goes on and then they keep the cameos crazy like they did in the previous movies. I'm probably gonna give it a shot. Yes.
It's funny you mentioned the lame-o plot with the doppelganger cliche, and for me that's actually a selling point. Because when they announced the sequel, and that they announced it as like a continuity sequel to the Muppets, as opposed to just another movie with Muppets in it,
okay,
I was a little bit worried that it was going to go all plotty on us when, that's not what the Muppets do.
I guess. Not
to F with the original, the Muppets still have to be this sort of weird, absurdist sort of humor. Like, you can't try to make it make sense. That's not what the Muppets do. The Muppets barely make sense. That's their shtick. And the sequel needs a plot, because otherwise how do you differentiate it with the first movie, But if the idea here is to take a really stupid and inherently lame plot and just well, you know how it works, so we don't need to focus on building the plot, we can just hang jokes on it now.
I guess, yeah.
That's a good thing in the case of the Muppets.
Yeah.
That might be the right way to go.
I see your point. Okay. Yeah. I did enjoy in the trailer the part where, Miss Piggy's, there's nothing wrong with Kermit, he's paying so much attention to me. And so yeah, that's a problem. that was pretty funny.
Are you looking forward to this movie?
I haven't seen the first one. I'm going to have to see the first one, see how the job they did. But, if it's pretty good, yes, I will be, watching that movie.
Yeah, well, I adored the Muppets when it came out 2 years ago. I'm happy that it did, in fact, revive the Muppets.
Yeah.
So yeah, Muppets Most Wanted. I'm totally into it if they're doing it in the same vein. But then again, the Muppets introduced a new Muppet, which is generic Muppet essentially. He's the main character of the Muppets, and the fact that he was generic was part of the point. Without going to spoilers, it's really part of his character is that he's an everyman. And then he became part of the Muppets by the end of the movie, and I'm surprised to see him back there. So it is a direct sequel because they've added the Muppets to the Muppets show, and he's still there.
Yeah.
And there was a part of me that's going what the hell are you gonna do with him? His whole shtick is that he had no discernible personality trait. That's sort of so anti-Muppet. So I'm enthusiastic, but I have some reservations.
Exactly.
Next week, we will be talking about the 300 Spartans. A lot of people have written to us to point out to us that 300 is, in a way, a remake of this movie. So when we reviewed 300 for 300 Rise of an Empire, we did not, in fact, touch on the original.
Yeah.
So we're going back and touching on the original next week, so that's what we're going to do.
Yep. Looking forward to that one, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be slightly more historically accurate. You don't know.
We'll find out.
Exactly.
Until then, if you want to write us, share with us your love of the Muppets, you can write us at mail@idiomanic.com or post a comment at idiomanic.com. We're also on Twitter, we're also on Facebook, we're also on YouTube, we're also on iTunes. If you could write us an iTunes review, it will help us get the feedback we need to continue make a better product. And if you could like us on Facebook, it helps us get the support to continue generating content of absurdist quality.
Indeed.
Otherwise, I will have no choice but to force Nick to cameo into different podcasts.
I would love that. Could you do that?